My name is Olivia Brooks. I'm 30 years old, a digital illustrator living in the heart of Brookmere, a city full of noise, color, and ambition. People know me as calm, creative, the type of person who gives more than she takes. But tonight, under the soft golden lights of my engagement party, something was shifting inside me. I felt it, a quiet storm rising. Most people think engagement parties are about flowers, cake, and congratulatory toasts. But for me, it was something more complicated because I was surrounded by people who had watched me grow up and forget I existed. I stood beside Ryan Cooper, my fiancé, a man whose loyalty runs deeper than blood. He's successful, gentle, the kind of man who listens even when you say nothing. The warmth of his hand on my back grounded me. The way he smiled at me across the room made everything else fade, except the lingering tension in the corner of my eye. My parents, Helen and Edward Brooks, sat stiffly at a nearby table. Smiles painted on, like cracked porcelain masks. Next to them, my younger sister Evelyn scrolled lazily through her phone, completely detached from the event. Yet somehow, as always, she remained the center of their universe. You see, I wasn't born into cruelty. I was born into quiet injustice. When I was 18, my parents gave Evelyn a $40,000 life starter fund. She called it her freedom money. I never got one, not even a conversation about it. I asked once, just once, if I was supposed to receive the same. My mother smiled tightly and said, "You've always been independent, Olivia. You don't need help like your sister does." They called it strength. I called it abandonment.
So I stopped asking.
I buried myself in work. I designed for companies by day and freelanced by night. I didn't buy designer shoes or post tropical vacations. I saved. Every dollar I earned was sacred. Every project, a step toward the future I wanted. And now, after a decade of hard work, I had finally bought myself something just for me, a $35,000 custom-made diamond and ruby bridal jewelry set, handcrafted by a Beverly Hills jeweler. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a symbol, a testament that I had made something out of nothing. No handouts. No favoritism. Just grit. That night at the party, the venue was stunning. A long garden hall, filled with candles and laughter. My cousin Amanda had flown in from Chicago just to be there. My best friend Grace, a nurse who always brought calm into chaos, stood proudly by my side. Everything shimmered. Everyone smiled. But even amid the music and celebration, I knew something was coming.
Call it a sixth sense.
Or maybe just experience. Because in my family, joy always came with a price tag. And I was about to find out just how expensive mine would be. The room quieted when my mother, Helen Brooks, rose from her chair and gently tapped her wine glass with a silver spoon. The soft chime rang through the garden venue, and all conversation faded as dozens of eyes turned toward her. She wore her usual expression, poised, elegant, untouchable. But I knew that look too well. It was the look she wore before delivering a public blow masked as a motherly announcement. "I just want to say how proud I am of Olivia and Ryan," she began, her voice smooth like silk stretched too thin. "What a beautiful couple. What a beautiful evening." Polite applause followed. I smiled tightly, fingers laced with Ryan's under the table. His thumb brushed over my knuckles, sensing my tension. Then her tone shifted. "But," she continued, setting her glass down with a subtle thud, "there's something important we've decided, Edward and I, something that will help this family stay balanced and united." I felt my stomach clench. "We've asked Olivia to do the right thing, to hand over her bridal jewelry set to Evelyn. She needs it more." The room went completely silent. Someone's fork clattered against their plate. I blinked, unsure I'd heard correctly. "I'm sorry, what?" I said, my voice tight but calm. "The jewelry, Olivia," she repeated, louder this time. "It's beautiful, expensive, and frankly more than you need." Evelyn's struggling. She doesn't have anything prepared for her wedding yet. She should have a chance to shine too. "I bought that set with my own money," I said, rising slowly to my feet. My voice trembled, not from fear, but from boiling restraint. "It cost me $35,000. I earned every cent of it. You didn't help me. My mother's smile evaporated. Her jaw tightened. Edward looked down at his plate, saying nothing as usual. You've always been selfish, she hissed. Always thought you were better than your sister. You could at least do this one thing for her. Evelyn stood abruptly, her face flushed with fake outrage. Wow, Olivia. I didn't think you'd be this bitter about it. You have everything now. Why is it so hard for you to share? This isn't about sharing, I snapped. This is about entitlement. You blew through $40,000. I had nothing. And now that I've built something, you want to take that too? My mother took a step toward me, the tension in her shoulders turning into something more dangerous. You ungrateful little girl, she whispered harshly. And then it happened. Her hand shot out. She gripped my hair and yanked hard. Before I could even react, her open palm came down across my cheek with a loud, vicious crack. The entire room gasped in horror. The world tilted. My face burned. My breath caught in my chest as I stumbled back a step, shocked not just by the pain, but by the sheer cruelty of it. Across the room, Grace shot to her feet, pulling her phone from her purse with trembling fingers. I'm calling the police, she said loudly, her voice clear and unwavering. This is assault. Ryan rushed to my side, placing his body between mine and Helen's, but the damage was already done. My hair was still tangled in her grip. My cheek throbbed. Amanda stood too, furious. Everyone saw that. She attacked her daughter in front of 50 people. Helen backed away slowly, suddenly aware of the silence surrounding her. Edward still said nothing. I turned to the crowd, then to Grace, nodding. Call them. Let her answer for it. As Grace stepped away with her phone to her ear, I stood tall, my voice steady, my spine straight. She doesn't get to humiliate me anymore. Not in private. Not in public. Not ever again. It didn't take long. Within minutes, the wail of sirens cut through the air outside the venue. The chatter of stunned guests faded into uneasy silence. Grace stood near the front gate, speaking quietly into her phone, guiding the responding officers through the garden entrance. Ryan kept his arm wrapped protectively around my shoulder. My cheeks still pulsed from the slap, my scalp sore where Helen had pulled my hair, but I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was steady, grounded. I had lived a lifetime in this family being hurt behind closed doors. This time, the world saw it. 2 uniformed officers stepped into the venue. One of them, Officer Taylor, approached our table directly, his face calm and professional. Ma'am, he said, looking at me, we received a report of a physical assault. Are you the victim? I nodded slowly.
Yes.
My name is Olivia Brooks. My mother assaulted me. In front of everyone. The other officer turned toward Helen, who had retreated to the corner of the garden near the buffet table, her arms folded tightly across her chest, her jaw clenched. Ma'am, we need to speak with you, he said firmly. I didn't hit her that hard, she snapped. It's a family matter. You people shouldn't even be involved. She struck her daughter in full view of guests. Amanda interjected, stepping forward bravely. There are at least 10 witnesses, including me. It wasn't a tap, it was violent. Grace joined her, lifting her phone. I recorded the aftermath and I already emailed it to myself, in case she tries to twist the story. The officers exchanged a glance. Officer Taylor gently guided Helen away from the crowd. Ma'am, assault is a criminal offense, regardless of family ties. You're being detained for questioning. I didn't do anything wrong, Helen barked. She's always been dramatic. She's lying. She's bruised and shaken, and there are multiple witnesses. We'll let the judge decide, the officer replied calmly. As they led her toward the police car parked just outside the gates, guests parted in stunned silence. Helen didn't struggle, but her face flushed with fury. Edward followed a few steps behind but said nothing, just watched, like a man who had spent years enabling abuse from the shadows. Ryan squeezed my hand. You were brave, he whispered. You didn't let her silence you this time. I'm done being silenced, I replied. After Helen was taken away, one of the officers returned with paperwork and a calm voice. Ms. Brooks, you have the right to file an official complaint and press charges. Would you like to do that? Yes, I said immediately. I want her held accountable. She doesn't get to hurt people and hide behind the word mother. Not anymore. That night, after the last guest had trickled out, some offering sympathy, others too stunned to speak, I sat at Ryan's dining table, bruised but clear-minded. Grace and Amanda stayed nearby while I completed my statement for the police report. Officer Taylor personally assured me the incident was taken seriously. And then, I contacted Julia Marks, one of the best attorneys in Brookmere. When I explained what had happened, she didn't blink. "We'll handle this," she said. "She's going to learn that consequences don't skip just because someone is your parent." As I ended the call, Ryan wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. The night had started in celebration. It ended in clarity. I wasn't the broken one in this family. I had just stopped pretending I was okay. 3 weeks after the engagement party, I stood outside the courthouse in a fitted blazer and low heels, staring up at the pale gray building that had, for years, only existed in stories on the news or shows on TV. I never thought I'd be walking in there to testify against my own mother. Inside, everything felt colder, sharper. The polished floor echoed with each step. Ryan held my hand tightly. Amanda sat beside us, flipping through her notes. Grace was a few rows behind, dressed in hospital scrubs, having come straight from a shift to be here. Across the aisle, Helen sat with her lawyer, stone-faced. She wore a beige coat and light makeup, like this was a PDA meeting, not a criminal trial. My father, Edward, sat next to her, silent as always. His eyes darted around the courtroom but never landed on me. The judge, an older woman with clear eyes and a firm tone, entered the room and called everyone to order. The case was presented quickly. Grace's phone footage was submitted into evidence, along with multiple signed witness statements. The video showed me flinching as Helen slapped me, her voice yelling just off-screen, and Amanda's voice crying out in the background. Helen's lawyer tried to argue it was a heated moment and that it didn't warrant serious charges. But Julia, my lawyer, was calm and deadly precise. She assaulted her daughter publicly, during a formal event, with multiple witnesses. This wasn't a slip of emotion. It was humiliation and violence. Helen didn't speak in her own defense. Maybe she thought silence would save her. Or maybe she believed she was still untouchable. The judge didn't need long. "Helen Brooks," she began, voice stern, "you are found guilty of assault under state law. This court does not consider family status an exemption from responsibility." Then she listed the punishment. A $5,000 fine, payable immediately. 12 months of probation with monthly check-ins. Mandatory anger management and therapy sessions. And most notably, 15 days of real jail time, to begin the following week. Helen's composure cracked for the first time. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes darted to Edward, who still said nothing. I watched her face twist with disbelief. She wasn't used to consequences. The judge then turned to me. "Ms. Brooks, is there anything you'd like to say?" I stood slowly. My heart pounded, but my voice was even. "Yes, Your Honor. Just this, I never thought I'd have to do this. I never wanted to. But being a parent doesn't give you the right to hurt your child. And I hope today proves that no one, no matter how respected or well-dressed, is above the law." The judge nodded, then called the session to a close. As people rose from their seats, Helen was led out of the courtroom in quiet disbelief. She didn't glance at me. Edward followed her without looking back. Amanda wrapped her arms around me. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "She needed to be stopped. And you did it." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes, not from pain, but from release. Outside the courthouse, the autumn wind whipped past us, brisk and cleansing. Ryan slid his arm around my waist. "It's over," he said softly. "No," I replied, taking a deep breath. "It's just beginning." After the trial, everything changed. Not just for me, but for Evelyn too. At first, she disappeared from my life completely. No messages. No calls. Not even another attempt at drama. I assumed she was sulking, licking her wounds after the very public disaster she'd caused. But soon, whispers from the extended family began to reach me, fragments of conversations passed down through cousins and aunts who weren't afraid to speak the truth anymore. Apparently, Evelyn's wedding never happened. No venue. No groom. No save the dates. Nothing. The man she was supposedly engaged to? He left her. Quietly. Weeks after the engagement party. Rumor had it that he'd heard about the slap, the red wine sabotage attempt, and the court case, and realized this wasn't a family he wanted to marry into. Others said Evelyn's growing entitlement, mood swings, and obsession with outshining everyone had pushed him away. He had begun to see through the carefully curated image she used to wear like a second skin. Either way, he was gone. And with him, so was the illusion that Evelyn's life was perfect. She tried to salvage her reputation. She posted filtered photos, captions about delayed weddings due to venue changes, and smiling selfies with overused hashtags. But people weren't buying it anymore. Relatives who had once favored her began backing away. Aunt Clara declined her dinner invitation. Uncle James didn't respond to her birthday text. Even a few of our older cousins who used to gush about her grace and charm now rolled their eyes when her name came up. She burned every bridge trying to look like royalty. One cousin told Amanda, who passed it along to me. Now no one wants to cross hers. And then came the harshest blow. Helen's criminal record and Evelyn's support of her behavior had quietly become known within their social circle. Former family friends unfollowed her. Invitations stopped coming. Evelyn wasn't just disliked, she was avoided. I didn't celebrate her downfall, but I didn't pity her either. She had tried to destroy my wedding, my dignity, and my peace. She thought she could always walk away untouched. But when you build your life on appearances and favoritism, reality catches up, eventually. Ryan, and I didn't speak her name anymore. Not because we were angry, but because she was no longer relevant to the life we were building. 2 months after the courtroom closed its doors behind Helen, I opened new ones of my own. The morning of our wedding was crisp and bright, the sky painted with soft streaks of gold and blue. Our venue was a serene garden estate on the edge of Brookmere, nothing too flashy, just elegant, calm, and deeply personal. White chairs lined the aisle. Roses curled around a wooden arch where Ryan would be waiting. Everything was exactly as I had imagined it, and earned. Unlike Evelyn's fake fairy tales, this day was built on love, not lies. Grace stood beside me in the bridal suite, carefully pinning a few loose strands of hair behind my ear. "You ready?" she asked, smiling. I looked in the mirror, the custom diamond and ruby set glittering softly around my neck and wrists. The same set my mother had tried to rip from me. I had kept it, and everything it stood for. My hard work. My worth. "I've never been more ready," I said. But we still had one final hurdle. At 2:15, just before the ceremony began, one of the security guards knocked on the suite door. His voice was low but urgent. "Miss Brooks, there's a problem." My heart tightened. "What kind of problem?" "A woman matching Evelyn Brooks' photo just tried to enter through the side gate," he said. "She was carrying a bottle of red wine and told staff she had a message for you." Grace's eyes narrowed. "You've got to be kidding." "She's been escorted off the property," the guard added quickly. "Do you want to file a police report?" I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't afraid.
No.
"I want her gone. No drama. No energy wasted. Just make sure she doesn't come back." He nodded and left. Grace looked at me. "You okay?" "I'm more than okay," I said. "She's outside, and I'm in here, getting married to the man I love. That says everything." When I walked down the aisle moments later, Amanda smiled through tears. Grace gave me a quiet thumbs up from the front row. And Ryan, my rock, my partner, stood at the altar in a slate gray suit, eyes locked on mine as if no one else existed. And honestly, in that moment, no one else did. We exchanged vows under the arch, surrounded by friends, not family. Chosen people, not inherited ones. Ryan promised to protect my peace, and I promised never to let anyone steal my voice again. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the crowd erupted into applause. I wasn't just married. I was finally free. We didn't spend $100,000 on a ballroom. We didn't serve gold-plated desserts. We danced under twinkle lights, laughed over homemade cheesecake, and ended the night running hand in hand through a tunnel of sparklers. Later, we drove to the house Ryan already owned, a warm, welcoming home with space to grow, and a porch where we'd one day sit with coffee and quiet mornings. I had entered the party months ago as the girl who always made room for others. I left my wedding as the woman who finally made space for herself. After the wedding, life settled into a rhythm I never knew I needed. There were no awkward family dinners, no phone calls laced with guilt, no obligation to explain or justify my choices. The silence from Helen and Edward wasn't just expected, it was welcome. I had cut ties, not out of revenge, but out of necessity. For years, I had been the daughter they ignored, the afterthought to their golden child. I used to wonder if one day they'd see me, really see me, not as someone to control or correct or compare, but as a human being. But those hopes had burned away the day my mother grabbed my hair and slapped me across the face for refusing to hand over my hard-earned bridal set. Some actions are unforgivable. Some silences are final. Ryan never asked me to reconsider. He understood. He had seen firsthand what they were capable of. Together, we built new routines, quiet mornings with coffee and sketchbooks, late-night talks about dreams and business ideas, weekend walks through neighborhood parks. Our home felt like peace. Grace visited often, her laughter filling our kitchen while she told hospital stories over lemon tea. Amanda sent postcards from her travels, always ending with, P.S. You did the right thing. Evelyn faded from the conversation entirely. The last I heard, through secondhand family whispers, she was living alone in a downtown apartment, bouncing between short-term jobs, struggling to hold on to the persona she'd built. The wedding that never happened was never spoken of again. Even the relatives who once blindly defended her had gone silent. And Helen? She served her 15 days in county jail. The court-mandated therapy was reported as non-compliant. No one visited. Not even Edward. I had moments, quiet ones, where I wondered if he ever thought about me, if he regretted sitting silently through it all. But I never reached out. I didn't need closure from a man who chose silence over truth, because closure had already arrived, in the form of peace, self-respect, and freedom. I framed a photo from our wedding and hung it above the fireplace. In it, Ryan is kissing my forehead under a canopy of lights. My jewelry sparkles against my collarbone. I'm smiling, not just for the camera, but for the life ahead. A life I had built. No help. No shortcuts. No apologies. Just strength. And as I stood in that house, looking at the woman in that photo, I whispered something I wish I had said to myself years ago. You weren't too much. You were just never enough for people who didn't know how to love you. And that's not your fault. And with that, the chapter closed, not on heartbreak, but on healing. 6 months into our marriage, I started feeling different. It wasn't anything dramatic, just quiet signs. A missed period. A little more tired in the mornings. The scent of coffee turning my stomach, even though I used to love it. I knew something was changing. 2 pink lines confirmed it. I was pregnant. I sat on the edge of the bathtub in stunned silence, holding the test with both hands. Ryan found me there a few minutes later, and when I looked up, eyes wide and teary, he didn't need to ask. He dropped his knees in front of me and whispered, "You're going to be an amazing mother." The months that followed were filled with quiet joy. We didn't make big announcements or over-the-top gender reveals. We bought children's books and painted a nursery. Grace came over often, helping me pick baby-safe skincare products and calming me down every time I Googled something scary. I didn't think about Helen or Evelyn anymore. They weren't part of this story. This life. This new chapter. Ryan attended every doctor's appointment with me. At night, he read stories to my belly, placing his hand where the baby kicked, smiling every time she moved. We learned it was a girl during a quiet moment at the clinic, just the 2 of us, holding hands as the ultrasound screen flickered to life. I want her to grow up with love, I told him one night as we folded tiny clothes. Not fear. Not silence. She will, he promised. Because she'll have you. 9 months passed slowly, but gently. And then, one bright spring morning, after 10 hours of labor and more tears than I could count, they placed her in my arms. She had my eyes and Ryan's calm expression. A tiny miracle wrapped in a cotton blanket. We named her Lena Grace, a name that held strength, softness, and everything I wished I had growing up. As I held her against my chest, I whispered the first promise I would ever make to her. You will never wonder if you are enough. You already are. And in that moment I realized, my story didn't end with walking away from a broken family. It began with building a new one. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If you found it moving, relatable, or thought-provoking, don't forget to like the video to show your support. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, whether you've faced something similar or simply want to share your reaction. And if you enjoy real-life inspired stories with strong emotions and satisfying endings, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new upload. See you in the next story.